Well then.
Sam, if you hold just 1 second, I'm going to get us over to Facebook. That'd be great.
I will. I was giving sort of the camera countdown. But we'll do official introductions just shortly. I know that some folks who are joining us tonight are brand new to Great River School. And so for those folks, I want to say hello and welcome. This is an odd and awkward way sometimes to be welcomed to a new school community. And I know also that our teachers and our staff have been working really well and really collaboratively and also innovatively to try to design an education experience for you all that is not only meets our mission and vision, but I think is engaging and meaningful. So one of the ways we've been reflecting on education from last spring is thinking about what worked and then what parts were not working. And we tried to address that in also then planning for a mitigation to the pandemic that's happening right now and how we can be safest for our community. So thank you. Thanks for being here. I think Stacy, I'm still seeing screen lights up. So I think you're still working. So I will say also, oh, we're live on Facebook?
We're live on Facebook and recording here.
Okay, so those of you who are here, wonderful. There's 68 of us, and we've also messaged everybody that they can watch on Facebook, so I'm not sure how many more people will come in. If you have a question, though, Stacy, can you see people if they post questions on Facebook?
Oh, no.
Okay, great. So if you want to ask a question and you are watching live on Facebook, a couple ways to do that. One is to log in live to this webinar. Secondly, the other way right now that probably is easiest for Stacy and I to see is an email to office@greatriverschool.org. That's OFFICE@greatriverschool.org. So hello, my name is Sam O'Brien. I use he, him pronouns, and I am head of school here at Great River School. And with me here is Stacy Krieger. Stacy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Stacy Krieger. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Director of Administration at Great River.
All right. And who we'll hear from tonight includes Melanie Peterson Nafsiger. Melanie will introduce herself also on her presentation. And then Stacy will be kind enough to take us through a presentation that I believe also we will share with you all. It's a slideshow, and in the bottom corner of the slideshow are audio files that explain each slide. It's about a 20-minute adventure. Includes some video, but also some careful explanation of slides that have written information on them. If that is your niche of how to get information, great. This is going to just hit the dead center bullseye for you. If you're a reader, then you'll get to read. If you're a listener, you can sit back and listen. Melanie's very thorough. Also, I just want to let you know that if you are a reader who likes to look back over things, we'll be sending this information out again by Friday with many more details in addition to the schedules that we sent last week on last Friday. And so at our school this year, I know we are dealing with multiple stressors and new challenges. I want to express, I suppose, just right off the bat, the heartbreak that I have that we're not in person doing this and welcoming you all together. There are a lot of ways that we've been working as a school for the last 4 years to address how to be together in person. Frankly, how to not use screens primarily to connect. And also how to manipulate materials in our environment to get to know each other. So on previous back to school nights, you would likely be sitting in a group or in a small group at a table and passing a talking piece around, or you'd be manipulating paper or markers. So in any case, what we're doing tonight is, I think, a stand-in for something that is heartbreak to me that if we can't do it the way that we have been practicing. And in the midst of both a clinical epidemiological pandemic, living through, I know in our Twin Cities, the impacts and reactions and calls for racial justice, and living in a time in which the impacts of climate change are felt more and more often and at more steady rates. I suppose I want to address the idea that our school mission of education to build a peaceful world is alive in my mind each morning. And also, it's not something that happens just because we're serving it or delivering it. So I've said many times at 10th through 12th grade back to school nights This isn't a customer service operation. This is a community effort. And so it requires every year for folks like me and Stacy to reinvest, but it also asks a lot of you as students and you as families to invest your time and efforts and talents and energy in making this place a place that is good and following through on that mission of building a better world for peace. So thank you for listening to that introduction. And Stacy, are you ready to play Melanie's presentation?
I think so. There is one slide that it says I don't have permission to play the audio on, so I've requested access, but if we get there and don't have it, you will get this presentation and watch it yourself later.
I'll be ready. Yeah,
okay.
That sounds okay.
All right, sharing my screen.
Hey, about the Q&A. If you're here for the first time, or you haven't been at a family forum yet, or you weren't in the lower adolescent forum, there's a Q&A box on your screen, and if you tap that Q&A box, that will be the best place for you to ask questions that we can make sure to get to later. You can chat, however, the chat is not a place that I can be sure to see all the questions, or Stacy can either. So use the Q&A, please, and after this presentation, I'm sure there'll be some questions that come up, and we'll speak to them. Okay, thanks, Steve.
Yep, Sam, can you see the screen?
I can, we're good.
Well, wait until I start the video and give me a thumbs up if you can hear it, and then we'll be fine.
Gotcha, we'll do.
Hi everybody, I'm Abby Mesnick. I use she, her pronouns. I'm an upper adolescent math guide. One thing that's brought me joy this summer is I moved into a house, so I have a new Zoom background. I'm looking forward to trying lots of new things this year in the time of distance learning. Thanks, and I'll see you soon.
Hi everyone, my name is Aiden Clements. My pronouns are he, him. I'm an upper adolescent SPED EA. And one thing that brought me joy this summer was being within walking distance of the sculpture garden at the Walker Art Center. And one thing I'm looking forward to this school year is continuing relationships that I built last year and starting some new ones.
Hi everyone, my name is Elena Zostakowski. I use she, her, hers pronouns, and this year I'll be teaching TOK and also supporting UA students in social studies. Something that really brought me joy this summer was being around very large trees, and I'm looking forward to getting to know all of you in Adolescent.
Hi everyone, I'm Andrea Christensen Zdenek. I use she, her pronouns. One thing that has brought me a lot of joy this summer is spending time outside each day. And my heart beats harder in experiencing the groundswell of activism. I'm deeply looking forward to working with the juniors and seniors, reading and discussing literature together. Thanks.
I'm Anu Dean. I am doing global politics for the upper adolescents. I use she, her pronouns. This summer I really enjoyed walking around the lakes and doing a lot of swimming. And I am really looking forward to this new year and getting some extra one-on-one time as I help you guys with global politics.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Measly. I use she, her pronouns, and I teach adolescent vocal music and theater. One thing that brought me a lot of joy this summer was teaching Norwegian at Concordia Language Villages, and I'm really excited to take some of the ways that I taught virtually there and apply them to my work this year with all of you.
Hi everybody, my name is Donovan O'Dowd. I use he, him pronouns. I'm an upper adolescent special ed guide. Something that brought me joy this summer was getting some home improvement projects done, and I'm looking forward to working with students again. I feel like it's been a long time. Thanks, see you soon.
Hi, my name is Ivana Pavluk. I use she, her, hers. I'm a special ed assistant in upper adolescent level and also ELL teacher, 1 through 12th grade. One thing that brought me joy this summer was exploring baking. I made my own birthday cake for the first time in my life. And I look forward to see students hear their stories and meet new students.
Hey everybody, my name is Jenny. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Student Wellness and Equity Coordinator for the whole school, and I'll be teaching 10th grade health this year. Swimming and cool breezes have brought me a lot of joy this year, and connecting with Asian American community. And I'm looking forward to continuing building fun and trusting relationships here.
Hi, my name is Kyle. I use he, him, his pronouns. I am a life science guide. I'm new to Minnesota, so this summer I began to run segments of the Superior Hiking Trail along the North Shore. And this year I'm really looking forward to working with students to apply science to real-life decisions concerning health, athletics, and ecological preservation in their lives and our communities. Thank you. Bye.
Laura, I'm going to jump in. This is Kathleen Maloney. I am an education assistant for upper adolescent, she, her pronouns. And what brought me joy this summer is working with an artist friend of mine whose studio was destroyed in the 3rd Precinct uprisings. But we've got him set up in a new place so he can paint. And did I mention he's 90 years old? Looking forward to seeing how you all have grown and developed over the summer and become more and more confident and centered in who you are. It gives that, I love watching that.
Hi, I'm Laura Mahack. I use she, her pronouns. One thing that brought me joy this summer was an extensive road trip to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, where we explored our beautiful lakes and rivers, and did a bunch of paddleboarding and canoeing. I teach sculpture to upper adolescent students. I'm a 7-8 advisor, and then I'll also be teaching a practical life skills with the 7th and 8th graders this year. And what I'm really looking forward to is seeing everyone's faces again, and seeing what kind of art everyone can make. Thanks.
Hi everyone, my name is Lindsay Weaver. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm a guide with Algebra 2 and also assistant IB coordinator. My dog brought me joy this summer, Bruin, and I'm really looking forward to seeing all of our students soon.
I think you're muted, Lisa.
Hi everyone, my name is Lisa Steinman. I use she, her pronouns. My role at Great River School this year is to provide intervention services to students in the upper adolescent program. Think of me as the in-house academic coach. One thing that brought me joy this summer was my daily Zoom call with my sisters and my parents who have been restricted in their senior residence quarantine. We laugh a lot. This year, I am looking forward to new relationships and renewing relationships with our brilliant students at Great River and their home teams. Thanks, bye.
Hi y'all, my name is Logan Weiss and I am a upper adolescent special education guide for 10th through 12th grades. One thing that brought me joy this summer was taking my dog to the dog park almost daily, which resulted in a lot of baths, but was really fun. And I'm looking forward to seeing all your faces and building some new relationships with those folks that I don't know. Thanks so much, bye.
Hi all, it's Montana. I am an upper adolescent sped guide also, and what I did this summer that brought me joy was a lot of hiking with my family and my kids and my dogs, always my dogs everywhere. And what I'm looking forward to this year is seeing how that unique way that we are gonna be in school this year, how that plays out, how it works, what you guys enjoy, what's hard, and how we get through it. And I'm looking forward to getting through it. Thanks. Bye.
Hi, I'm Phil O'Neill. I am a adolescent sped guide setting 2 and 3. It's my first year here at Great River. Something that brought me joy this summer was taking out all of my front lawn and replacing it with garden vegetables and flowers. One of the things I'm looking forward to this year is navigating the distance learning with the students, the caregivers, and the staff here at Great River. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Hi everybody, my name is Randy Mcclure, she, her pronouns. I teach visual arts to upper adolescent students, particularly drawing, studio art, and IB art. This summer I put together a pottery studio in my garage, which was pretty exciting. And I'm really looking forward to getting very creative with our art projects and distance learning.
Hey everybody, I'm Sarah Garton and I use she, her pronouns. I'm an upper adolescent advisor and I teach 9th and 10th grade social studies. One thing that brought me joy this summer was learning how to dive again. I learn every summer. And I'm really excited for standards-based grading. We'll talk more. See you later.
Hey y'all, this is Seth Tupper. I am the adolescent social worker. I use he, him pronouns, and something that brought me joy this summer was just simply being outdoors as much as possible. Camping, gardening, biking, anything that got me outdoors. And something I'm looking forward to this school year is really embracing the mantra of less is more, and just prioritizing everyone's emotional health. So that's it. I look forward to seeing everybody.
Hi everyone, this is Sheila Sullivan. I use she, her pronouns. I will be teaching 10th grade physics and IB environmental systems and societies. I really enjoyed swimming this summer and spending time outside and spending time with my kids. Everyone was home, so that was great for me. And I'm looking forward to a new year of exploring the natural world with everyone in whichever environment they can find. You can have just a small patch of dirt and find a lot of natural wonder. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'll see you later. Thanks. Bye.
Hi y'all, Taylor Perkins here. I use she, her pronouns, and I am an upper adolescent SPED EA. One of my favorite parts about this summer was getting to visit 4 national parks on a 3-week road trip with my partner. And I'm really looking forward to seeing returning students and meeting new students this year.
Hello, everyone. My name is Teresa Hitchens Olsen. I am the Director of College Access, and I serve all adolescents and their families, working specifically with the seniors intensely during the year, but serving you all. The thing that brought me joy this summer was growing over 150 pounds of tomatoes and being able to deliver them to the sanctuaries and to stand out on the street and give tomatoes away for free to anybody who would take them. And it just was really, really fun and felt good. What I'm looking forward this year is, one of the things I'm proud of is I think I'm very much the MacGyver of education. So when they shut doors, we go through the windows. So one of the things I'm looking forward to is inventing new ways of doing things. And one of the hardest years is going to be going forward to college. So I'm excited about all the windows and little cracks we get to crawl through, because I love that kind of stuff. So thank you all, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Hey everyone, my name is Zach Boder. I use he, him, his pronouns. I am an upper adolescent math guide at Great River, and one thing that brought me joy this summer is we adopted a second dog. He is a greyhound, and his name is Poe, and he's been awesome so far. And I'm really looking forward to trying new things and just hoping that it really brings positive results and experiences for all of my students. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Zach Scott. I'm an upper adolescent guide and instrumental music guide. And what I loved about the summer was having time to do some songwriting and recording, and spending a ton of time with my daughter outside gardening and biking and swimming. And I'm looking forward to teaching a few new classes this year. Distance learning has given me an opportunity to try out some new things. So I'm looking forward to that and seeing all the students, of course. Bye.
Hi y'all, I'm Chessie. I use she, her pronouns. I'm an upper adolescent SPED EA. One thing that brought me joy this summer was learning how to make earrings, and I'm modeling an example of a pair I made. So using clay and metal, so it's been really fun to do that. It's kept me indoors and quarantining, so that's been good. What I'm looking forward to is just meeting everybody and learning about their interests. So excited to meet you all. Bye.
Wow,
what a group. I feel so lucky to get to work with all of you. And thanks, Zach, for getting your dog into the intro video. May it be a year full of some pets on Zoom. My name is Melanie Peterson Nafsiger, and I'm the Upper Adolescent Program Director. My pronouns are she, her. And what brought me joy this summer? 2 weeks camping and hiking on the North Shore and in the Boundary Waters area in lots of mossy places. I love moss. What am I looking forward to this year? Tomorrow, we have some students from the Upper Adolescent Leadership Team joining us as a faculty and trying to plan a really meaningful first 9 days of school as orientation. And I look forward to trying to invite students in at the point where they can really have a meaningful voice and power in influencing how this year is going to go. So we'll try it out tomorrow and hope to just keep it up all year. Looking forward to the year with everybody, and thanks. Bye.
And then, so as we move through this slideshow, I just want to let everyone know that Melanie will be speaking over the slides. Thanks, Stacy.
No problem. We'll bring that back to the start. Here we go.
At Great River, we've spent the summer and are spending this week during Teacher in Service really grappling with the question of what is the role of our school and our community of learners and families and people in our community in this really complex time we're living in the time of COVID-19 as well as racial injustice. When we layer in climate change and the tumultuous political situation in the United States right now, we find ourselves entering a really complex school year, and yet we are devoted to figuring out how to have our community be a place where people feel supported and safe and seen and heard and recognized, and they find that the tasks that they're being asked to engage in their classes and advisories and community meetings are flexible enough that students can find deep meaning in what they're choosing to learn within the context of each of their courses. As a Montessori IB school, we have peace and justice and working toward equity at the core of what we are all about, both with our IB mission statement as well as, of course, our Montessori pedagogy. We want to introduce you, if these are new terms, to 2 terms, ABAR and SEL, because they're at the core of how we're thinking about working with students and families this year. ABAR stands for anti-bias, anti-racist, and in our setting at Great River, we're talking about culturally relevant education and thinking about how do we look at everything we do as a school, from assignments to our relationships, to our policies, to the way we use our spaces and be with each other online. How do we do that in a way that feels culturally relevant and really embraces and recognizes people's cultures and uses those as strengths? Then social and emotional learning, SEL, is not just thinking about the executive function skills that might help students succeed in classes, but also thinking widely about well-being and mental health and really engaging deeply in anchor practices like community meetings, journaling, storytelling, and action projects, taking what we're studying in classes and really perforating the walls of our school so that our learning can spread out into our communities as well. So what will school look like this year in the time of a global pandemic? What we can commit to is that we know for the first 6 weeks of the school year, we will begin in full distance learning mode. Great River has sent out lots of newsletter announcements, and the website is full of information, so you can read details about our distance learning plan, our hybrid model, which is a possibility of something that we could move to depending on how things go during the year, and then also an in-person model. On this slide, you'll see the guiding principles we're using to decide what's safe and how to make these critical decisions about our students' learning experiences and how we are together safely as a community. Health and safety, relationships and community, of course, compliance with the law, focusing with social and emotional learning and anti-bias, anti-racist practices at the core of what we're doing, and staying true to our Montessori and IB ideals. So regardless of which of those three scenarios we are in throughout the year, we are committed to Great River remaining a resource center. We know that different families and different students have different needs right now during this pandemic, and we're committed to make sure that we serve those needs. So we're providing a safe place for people to learn with support of adults and community members. Also, regardless of whether students in the upper adolescent program are coming to school to participate in the resource center learning environment, or if they're learning from home, they will build a close relationship with their guides, including their advisor and their fellow advisees in groups of about 20 people. They'll meet 4 times per week for 30 minutes. They will have classes. And upper adolescent students, including 10th graders, all 10th, 11th, and 12th graders will plan independent experiences that they want to engage in for creativity, activity, and service each Wednesday afternoon, and for a little other time every week. We will begin the CAS program September 30th, so students can just hold tight and enjoy creativity, activity, and service if they want to before that, but we'll roll it out as a program at the end of September. Also, upper adolescent students will enjoy a community meeting every Wednesday. Sometimes those will be by grade level, and sometimes those will be all 10th, 11th, and 12th graders meeting together on Zoom at first. And the students are already hard at work planning some fun and meaningful connections at community meetings. And finally, if students in the 11th and 12th grade IB diploma program are intending to take IB exams, International Baccalaureate knows that schools all over the world are being drastically impacted by COVID-19, and they've already reduced the number of IB exams as well as IB internal assessments like presentations and other big projects for the IB courses for the May 2021 season. So students will find that the requirements for the IB program have been lessened, just like the amount of time that they're spending at school is a little bit less this year. And yet we are committed to the rigor and the meaningful core of using education to try to help students grow into full, whole, balanced, caring people who are knowledgeable about the world and trying to make it a better place.
Can't see. Oh, there we go. Oh, come on. There we go.
What you see here is a sample schedule for an upper adolescent grades 10 through 12 student at Great River this year. What you see is not representative of every student's schedule. So this doesn't mean that at 9 o'clock, every student will have a synchronous lesson, which means face-to-face with their teacher on Zoom. But what you can conclude from looking at this document is that each student will have 2 synchronous lessons per hour, 2 times a week. So for example, when you're looking at the 9 o'clock to 10:15 row, on Monday and Thursday, this sample student will have a face-to-face lesson on Zoom with their guide and fellow students. And then on Tuesday and Friday, they will have either group independent work where they meet with that guide on Zoom and they work side by side. So the guide may be checking in with the student about how they're doing on a research project or helping them plan what they're going to get done next for something they're working on. They might be clarifying a question about a problem in math class or helping to understand a theory or a concept or apply an idea to a text. So students might be working side by side with their guide on Zoom in group independent work. And students who have been succeeding at managing work completion and engagement and attendance and are really on top of what's going on in distance learning will also have the opportunity to be doing independent work not connected to their Zoom during those asynchronous days, for example, on Tuesday and Friday at 9 to 10:15. Other students' schedules might have a synchronous or live face-to-face class on Tuesday and Friday that week, and then they would have that group independent work or independent work on Monday and Thursday. So it varies from day to day depending on who the student is, but the basic structure of the schedule is similar for each student. So again, then we look at the second hour, 10:25 to 11:40, and we see that students either are having group independent work, which would be asynchronous learning. They're not in a live class with their teacher on Monday, for example, at 10:25. And then on Tuesday and Friday, they would have, again, live lessons, synchronous lessons with their guides for those classes. As you can see, the schedule has 3 hours of classes for everybody at 9 o'clock, at 10:25, and at 12:45. And you see the pattern kind of similar for each of those hours, 2 synchronous lessons per week. The first day of the week that a guide doesn't teach a synchronous lesson, they will post an asynchronous lesson or assignment or activity. That could be online lab, it could be reading an article, it could be listening to a podcast, it could be doing research, it could be making one step on a group project. And the students have the whole week to work on that asynchronous lesson, and the guides will tell them when it's due. Then there's also one block at 2:15 to 3:30 at the bottom of the schedule, and that is a time for mostly theory of knowledge students, and there will be a music class offered at that time. So for students who are in a theory of knowledge, this is all juniors and seniors who are IB diploma candidates. And then it's an elective. If other students would like to take it, they're welcome to join it as well. And students in theory of knowledge will be cycling in and out of the course with learning cycles that last about a month at a time, just like the students in the 9 o'clock, 10:25, and 12:45 classes will also have their schedules change after one learning cycle. So the way that that's working this year is in a semester, students will circulate back and forth at about a month at a time between 2 sets of classes. Our goal with this design is that it seemed very challenging for students to have 6 or 7 simultaneous classes last spring when we had to make the emergency shift to distance learning. So we're really excited to try to reduce the number of courses that students are taking simultaneously so that they can focus deep and learn in a calm way with fewer items that they're trying to manage for homework and projects and tracking things on the learning management system platform Schoology, which is replacing Google Classroom and ManageBack this year. So students will start the school year with a 9-day orientation that will be full of community building and social and emotional learning and starting to set some norms and exploring the digital framework for their learning before their official classes begin. We hope to meet many of the goals of a regular fall key experience trip of building community and being vulnerable together and helping students and guides to get to know each other outside of traditional classroom learning. And then starting the week of September 21st, we'll shift into a more traditional course schedule. So students will be enrolled in 3 or 4 simultaneous courses for about a month. And then starting in mid-October, they'll switch to a second learning cycle, and they'll switch to 3 or 4 new classes. And so basically, since these learning cycles are about a month long, they're kind of like the equivalent of a quarter in your mind. So the semester that ends in the winter will have 2 month-long learning cycles for each course. And then the students will receive a final grade at the end of that semester for their work that they've demonstrated in those 2 learning cycles. You'll notice if you look back to this schedule that on Wednesdays, the schedule is a bit different. So students have the whole morning in the upper adolescent program from 9 to 11 a.m. to work on independent work. They are also able to access their guides. Each of their upper adolescent guides for courses, whether they're IB courses or electives, will offer 1 hour of office hours where students can drop in or make appointments from either 9 to 10 a.m. or 10 to 11 a.m. And we'll share a schedule so they know how to find their guides during that time. Then after independent work time, we move to student-led community meetings. There are students planning those community meetings with faculty support each week. And then we move to lunch. After lunch on Wednesdays, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders will dive into their CAS experiences, and they will have lots of freedom related to what they're doing, and we'll all have to think outside the box about what these might look like in this kind of unprecedented year. But there's no doubt that the world is still in need of all sorts of authentic, generous service, and our bodies and souls desperately need the balance of physical activity and creative thinking and arts, robotics, etc. We encourage students to start their day from 8:30 to 9, making sure they're well hydrated, they've stretched, they've eaten a nutritious breakfast, maybe they've meditated or done some deep breathing, and they take a look at their Schoology calendar where they will be keeping a digital work plan each week to kind of look through what their day is going to look like and organize themselves to make sure that they are ready to get some meaningful work completed during their asynchronous work time and their independent work on Wednesdays. So we will give an orientation to all the students when they come to the first 2 weeks of school so that they can get adjusted to this schedule, and we'll help guide them through. We'll even have on-call guides who can help them if they're lost in the digital learning space to figure out how to get to their classes or advisories or other things that are going on in their day. So that's the schedule for an upper adolescent student. And now let's move on to the next slide.
Hey, so folks, I'm just going to take a moment here and identify that in terms of our timing and answering questions, I want to make sure we get time for it. So Melanie does have, I think, 4 or 5 minutes per each of the next 7 slides. And I'm just going to talk through a couple of these. So in terms of UA teaching and learning this year, there will be different learning cycles that you go through. And in particular, guides are really putting at the core of their planning the social emotional learning and ABAR curriculum tenets that Melanie talked about at the beginning of this slideshow. And then specifically, the expectations, say, around missing work, around communication of how it's working, and the calendar and attendance really revolves around students getting engaged. So there will be daily attendance taken during lessons and advisories at community meetings. And then we want students to be checking in through that Schoology module again with their teachers for any of those times when asynchronous or independent work is happening. Stacy, next slide. And then specifically here, Melanie and the guides are talking about the group independent work on course days without synchronous lessons. So to the right here, it explains that the whole group of UA will be doing independent work. Side-by-side student and guide work time means that students should have access to a device, but won't necessarily be staring at the device. The small groups of students and guides will be all put together in order to work well together. And then some upper adolescent students will begin the year possibly required to attend new group independent work rather than opting into it. And that's really specifically to make sure that folks who aren't familiar with independent work really get trained into what we mean by it. So any students new to Great River School, also any students who might have formal learning plans, and or students who finished the year last year really doing well, having regular advisory and or meetings with teachers. So again, doing group indie work is really part of the plan, and most folks will be engaged in it throughout the year. And then the small group individual support that happens here, I think, is one of the unique features of our plan this year. Stacy, next. So something that I want to just cover here, but let you know that when you do get this slideshow publicly shared with you, Melanie talks about standards-based grading here for 12 minutes and really goes in depth into the philosophy and understanding of why and how we have moved this year to trial a standards-based grading approach. So especially say for 11th and 12th year students, I know you might be thinking, how does this affect how this is going to work, or how does this look for me as a student? And so what I'll say is that this is actually a proposal that we've been working on refining and then cultivating and nurturing for the past 4.5 years. The 1 through 7 scale descriptors that are being described for our standards-based grading, some of you who were here for, say, your lower adolescent experience may recognize that 1 to 7 scale. The 1 to 7 scale is something that all of our IB courses are very familiar with. And any of the 12th year students who took IB courses last year, you also recognize that 1 to 7 holistic scale. Specifically what it means is that the work that you do early in the learning period, so whether it's the first cycle of learning you use with your classes or early in the semester, that first initial part of the work where you might be struggling to understand concepts, or maybe you've even struggled as a student to be turning in work, is something we don't want to hold against you, but we do want you to be accountable for. And so in terms of the 1 to 7 standards-based grade, where we want to give an assessment fairly is that at the end of the learning period or at the end of the semester, your 1 through 7 assessment does roughly correspond through an A to F scale, in that 5 is an A, 4 is a B, 3 is a C, 2 would be a D, 1 would be an F. Specifically though, the 1 to 7 scale allows a 5 or a 6 or a 7 to really identify students who may have gone above and beyond in getting engaged in research and or really polished their skills or understanding for a 7. The focus of the work of learning is not discrete missing assignments like zeros that build up, but specifically if there are zeros that build up, say for missing work or lack of engagement, that's where some specifically required meetings for group indie work might happen. And then the in-progress grade at the end of the first learning cycle will be given. So say your first learning cycle will be about 4 weeks in your first 3 classes. And just as Melanie explained a couple slides ago, you'll learn those 3 classes for about 4 weeks, and then you switch to another 3. So your first assessment that you get will be given as a 1 through 7 scale that will be understood to be in progress. And after 2 learning cycles, so about 2 4-week periods with each class, you will be done with the semester, a traditional semester, and then you'll get that 1 through 7 scale as an assessment. And then this year, an A through F semester grade will still go on to transcripts. So if you're an 11th or 12th year thinking about that, or even if you're a 10th year thinking about how does this transfer to colleges, we are explaining to universities and post-secondary institutions how we use this scale. But you can listen more to this when you get the slideshow also. Stacy, next.
Oh, I think I might have skipped away. There we go.
Oh, great. So schedule of the day, distance learning. I do think it's really helpful here that Melanie and the guides put together some tips on how to get your day started. And so for 10th and 11th and 12th year students, I'd be suggesting that you can probably take responsibility for this. Our live classes generally from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Does mean that that's a structured part of your day. But then again, I want to identify that there's about 75 minutes of your day that we want you to be engaged in essential and meaningful work also, outside of that 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. period. And then over on the right there's tips for student support and structure, so how to make school really successful. So create a daily work plan, access your guide's office hours. I was telling some new students today, Go to your guide's office hours and play 20 questions. Just really get in the habit of visiting them. Attend the group independent work sessions. And then online study groups with peers, peer support, structuring the time with guides that you're going to have. And then make sure that Schoology overdue notifications are there. So Schoology is now a tool that many of you might have used at other schools. This is Great River School's first year with Schoology, but one of the real important factors of Schoology being a UA or upper adolescent tool, that's really important, I think, is the feedback you can get on work right in Schoology. So it's assigned there, it can be assessed there, you can have feedback and loops of feedback and discussion about your assignments there too. Stacy, next slide. And then the role of an adult, especially for an upper adolescent student, is to support your student in putting in place a daily routine, helping your student remember to take frequent work breaks. So we suggest here a 10-minute break away from screens at natural times between synchronous classes, or even just setting timers and making sure you're walking around and stretching and getting water. Now we say here, expect 2 chores a day from your student. So chore is maybe a more commonly used word for what we would call noble adolescent work at the Montessori school that you're at, or practical life. And so in terms of something that a student will need to do on a routine basis and really contributes to the stability and well-being of the family or the community. And then students should be reading often. So like 30 minutes a day of kind of whatever you want to read. But I know that a lot of students are really engaged deeply in academic work also. And so I just want to identify for students, especially in distance learning, a routine that involves sort of your whole body and whole self is really important. Stacy, next. So here again, Melanie will explain Schoology. She's got about 6 minutes of information, but a few of the quick highlights would be that you will use your Great River School email account that allows you to log into Schoology. You'll be getting that info by this weekend, and then parents and guardians will get that info again later this month. The overdue notifications are highly recommended. It'll help you understand or be notified if your student hasn't turned in work. Though, again, students, I would turn that on for yourselves also, just to help you keep track. Really what we're aiming for is an accountable partner at home. So families, parents, I will say it is part of your role to check in with your student, especially in distance learning, to say, how is it going? Are all your responsibilities met? And then students, it's part of your job to demand that your parents are still stay and become involved in your academic work. So ask them to help you keep track of all that work. And then in terms of grading and assessment, Schoology allows the standard-based grading that's linked to objectives. And then in PowerSchool, there's still attendance and the summative grade at the end of the semester. Stacy, next. And so here I'll let Melanie tell us about where to go on Tuesday, September 8th. Stacy, if you could press play. Oh, it's sneaky in there.
Done a great job of staying with me on this presentation, and we are almost at the end. So at this point, you might be asking, if you're a student, where do I go on Tuesday, September 8th? That's the first day of school. Your advisor in the upper adolescent program will send you an email with a Zoom link for Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. And as you see here in the note, on Tuesday, you'll have an extended time in your advisory together with your classmates and your advisor in the morning. You'll connect, you'll talk about how people are doing and kind of understand how the next couple days will work. And then you'll move into some asynchronous exploration of Schoology and starting to get familiar with that website and the platform and just where you go to log in and how you click on things and exploring your calendar, and you can start to connect for your courses. And then for people who are having trouble with the technology side of school on Tuesday, September 8th, you'll have time to troubleshoot and figure out your passwords if you're having trouble logging in, or try to figure out what's going on with your internet if it's not connecting correctly, or figure out if your headphones are not working and you can't hear. So it's a day of troubleshooting technology as well. So there won't be too many activities on Tuesday, September 8th, just so we have time to check in with families who might need to get digital devices from our school. So it's a day to contact the school if you need help with technology on Tuesday, September 8th. We want to make sure that Wednesday, September 9th, the students are ready to go and they won't miss out on a day full of connecting and interesting conversations and creative thinking. And then what we're going to do with the upper adolescent program is the 4 days of the first week of school and the whole next week will be connected to orientation and community building and really digging into social and emotional learning and thinking about equity and setting some norms about how we will be together in this world of distance learning this year. On September 21st, regular courses will begin. So by then, we hope students really know how to use Schoology, at least in a functional, basic way. And guides will be ready to go with some interesting courses for you on September 21st.
And then Melanie will tell us about supplies needed.
It hides.
If you're wondering what supplies your student might need while learning through distance learning, please click on the UA supplies list linked here, and you'll go to a Google doc that will tell you class by class special items that you might need to accumulate to help support your students' learning at home. Some of it's very standard, like folders and notebooks and pencils or pens or something. And then some courses have some more customized items that we're asking you to try to get a hold of. Notice that there are some notes about calculators. If you need support from the school, please let us know. You can contact the math teachers or contact info@greatriverschool.org if you need help with acquiring these supplies. We can be of assistance. If your student happens to be coming to school to learn at Great River as a resource center, we want to make sure that you understand that students should not share things with each other. So they should bring what they need to school with them if they happen to be coming on site for learning.
And then I'll just identify that Melanie does talk when you're in the slideshow about some of these folks, but our student support and student services team members for the upper adolescent are listed here. So our school social worker for the upper adolescent, Seth Tupper, Lisa Steinman, who introduced herself earlier, working with academic intervention plans, Teresa Hitchens Olsen, our director of college accessibility, Matt McElrath, who's our dean of students, and then Melanie, who's been narrating this slideshow, excuse me. And so if you need any supplies, access to resources, access to support, and or any kind of academic plans or accommodations or interventions, we want you to reach out and contact us. And so all the emails are here too of individual folks. And then Stacy, if you could just go to the next slide. I know there's a farewell from Melanie that we can just close with.
We have reached the end of our back to school upper adolescent orientation. And I want to acknowledge that this is a hard year to let little birds fly out of their nests with the global pandemic and so much unrest in our communities and conflict around us. My own two daughters, who now both are in college, are both Great River graduates, and one left today and just moved to New York City for her sophomore year of university, and the other left a week ago and moved toward California, where both of them are doing distance learning but living with friends. And it's a delight to see them go back out into the world, and it's also scary. And we bring that tender concern for your child and or student to Great River as well. And we want to recognize that sometimes conflict and disruption in our lives actually brings things like inequality out in the open, where we can't just ignore it and continue marching through the status quo. So we are committed to making this conflict that we're living with in a variety of ways right now, we are committed to seeing this disruption in our education system, in our lives, in our dreams of what we thought last year and this year were going to be like. We are committed to trying to use that disruption as a transformative opportunity for positive change. And we can only hope that the costs that we're all paying in different ways in our families and our communities, if we're brave and we're perseverant and we work in solidarity with the communities around us, that we can take this disruption and transform things that have needed to be transformed for a long time in our society. And we will guide your student with that optimism and also with the recognition of the complex lives that they're living right now, with the most tender of hearts. We will help them to try to accomplish things they weren't sure they were capable of accomplishing. And we hope it's going to be a great year. And we really thank you for trusting us with your child. Take care and keep in touch. Thanks for spending your night with me.
Okay, hello everybody. So what we will be doing now is going through there are 7 questions in the Q&A that I'll go over. And I know that Stacy Krieger is gonna go through that slideshow, make sure it's all ready to go, and then be sharing that link so that you all can go through some of the slides with a little more detail also. And so just a couple of the basics that may have been gone over a little quickly. There's a question about our 10th years doing physics and not chemistry. Yes, indeed. Kelly Martinson, who is writing in, asks, indeed, Kelly, 10th graders are doing physics and not chemistry for a few reasons. We did communicate in late May last year with families. However, there's a lot of news, there's a lot going on, and a lot of, frankly, a lot of more important pressing things to pay attention to in late May and early June last year. So specifically, I can though answer any specifics that families have about that strategy or why. But in particular, our physics teacher, Sheila Sullivan, this year will be teaching 12th year physics, closing out the IB cycle for students who are in that course, and then also teaching 10th year physics to all the 10th year students. That does fulfill state requirements to take either physics or chemistry. And then we have a new science course in the IB program this year that's a physiology and anatomy course that also involves some biochemistry and also involves some applied psychology concepts that's called sports, exercise, and health science. And so the environmental science, systems and societies, and sports, exercise, health science in the IB program are the 2 IB sciences, and 10th years all do physics now. So another question here about Manage Back. And so there's a specific caveat to the Manage Back announcement that Melanie just made. All the IB diploma candidates who were using Manage Back last year to keep all their files straight will continue to use Manage Back because it integrates so well with their requirements. But we did find that Manage Back did not integrate well necessarily with all the non-IB diploma candidates. So IB diploma candidates, you get an extra platform just to keep your diploma candidate stuff clear and coherent from last year. And so non-diploma candidates though, you are using Schoology this year to even track your CAS information. And then folks who are new diploma candidates this year, you'll work with Lindsay and Melanie to keep track of your IB information too. So this may be a month or 2 out, says Mike Hang, but is there going to be standardized testing, ACT, SAT? So typically, actually, in a school year that's not pandemic affected, that cycle is actually in April when we provide the ACT, Mike. And then there are some other standardized tests that happen beforehand. Stacy Krieger and I and some other folks at Great River School are waiting final word from the Department of Education about exactly when, how, and if those tests will be administered. Last spring's ACT was paused and then canceled due to COVID. And so this year we are waiting from the ACT organization to hear that. Then secondly, in terms of other standardized testing programs, Stacy and I are waiting to hear again about MCAs and other tests such as PSATs for other age students. When will schedules be sent to students? Stacy, I believe Saturday is our committed goal.
That's certainly the goal, but I'm in a wedding that day, so it might be Sunday.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll do my best to support Stacy, and I suppose just let you all know that in terms of really getting all the feedback from the community to make sure that we're implementing a schedule that has integrity, and then taking time to make sure that all the staff get to go over that schedule and really invest in it, is one of the reasons that Stacy and I didn't just announce a schedule and plug kids in back in July. But you will get your schedules, and then specifically, again, just like Melanie explained in that wonderful third slide, the first 9 days will be really focused on learning how to be together in the new setting. And so in terms of any questions you have about your schedules or courses, there will be time to get some feedback back and forth. So another question here. Last spring, Teresa mentioned she'd be in touch with all rising seniors to talk over college planning and applications. Okay, and so if you haven't been contacted, I know that this fall, Teresa will make sure to contact folks. Though the school year does officially begin on Tuesday, and if Teresa's been in touch with other folks, but not you yet, and you've heard through the grapevine, I do know that she will be in touch with everybody throughout September to really put together the plan. Teresa will plan more one-on-one college planning sessions by offering times on her calendar to reserve a time. And where is the link to back-to-school supply lists? The back-to-school supply list link will be in the slideshow that we just saw that Melanie provided. I believe it's the 12th slide, and in any case, that link also, we'll just put it in the email that we send to you all also on Friday. There's no supply needed on Tuesday that is not typical, such as, you know, a piece of paper and a writing utensil. But we will send that out also. Oh, thanks, Stacy. Is Patricia returning? Yes, Karen Shapiro asks. Patricia Moreno is returning and will be teaching both IB Spanish language and also a course called Ab Initio Spanish language for the IB. So students who may not, say, be ready for the advanced level of literature or fluency that the IB requires. We're adding a course called Ab Initio so that students who might be transferring in or have just taken 1 year of Spanish language can still do the IB program and engage fully. When do students learn who their advisors are? So when you get your schedule, you'll get your advisor assignment. And then we do have class rosters going around right now and just getting refined. So we are in the midst of teacher in service, and it is a whirlwind of, frankly, a lot of care. And so as teachers go over that and finalize it, I know it's something Stacy is going to be using for all those class lists. Just to clarify, will chemistry be offered next year for 10th graders who will then be 11th graders? And so Leanne Schmidt, I think that you're asking specifically, and you can put another question in the Q&A if I don't answer it correctly here. So in this 2021 school year for 10th years, we are offering physics. And so last year, 10th years did take chemistry. In terms of offering when or if chemistry will be offered next year, chemistry will not be offered next year for 10th graders or 11th graders. Specifically, sports, exercise, and health science does involve biochemistry, and then environmental science involves environmental chemistry. But chemistry as a course, for several reasons, was found to be a less applicable or important choice for offering 10th year science. And so I do see, though, that we will reshare, I think, as a link this Friday, that decision and why. And then I'm also happy to have a listening session and or hear feedback about that more. Will Emily Blue still be teaching 12th year Spanish? I believe so. Emily Blue will be teaching 12th year Spanish, and then after this first year of Ab Initio in 2021, in the fall of in 21-22, Emily Blue will be doing Ab Initio the second year. And then an honest and open question here from anonymous attendee: why are we still using Zoom when it's been proven to be terrible at both security and privacy? I'm totally open, anonymous attendee, to having a further discussion about that. And I do want to speak to a couple things. When we did research, say for Microsoft Teams or I think Blue Jeans, or even there's, I think, one called Big Blue Door. There are other systems that do allow video conferencing. We have found that in terms of the systems that are integrated already to many educational platforms, that Zoom, especially the free version that many schools jumped into using last spring, obviously, and even in our experience, does have faults. We have invested, what you're doing tonight is a webinar through Zoom that integrates, frankly, the best with most of our platforms. And then in terms of data privacy, we have consulted with the Department of Education. We have consulted with both our legal counsel and with other school districts and schools. And for the systems that we are using, we have found it to be the most accessible. It doesn't require special downloads on devices. And we've also found it to be reliable, frankly, as we've gotten more used to using it. And so in terms of data security, though, and privacy and the accessibility of Zoom to people who we don't want to see Zoom, that's frankly the reason that now all of our public meetings are webinars, just like the one you're in, where you put a question up or you raise your hand, but nobody's sharing except for people we promote to be panelists. And then secondly, I just want to identify that it's really important to understand, I suppose, that if you've got better intel on what you think would be a better solution for us, I would love to hear from you. We are constructing this new learning environment, frankly, in a totally new scenario. But in terms of where our student data goes, I do know, at least I will say, I have been told by experts, and in my research, I have not found any conflicting information that there is not a gathering of data from individual users. So there is a safety procedure that we have become more familiar with, especially as we invested in more Zoom features for that kind of security. And then there's a lot of Zoom chats that I think I'll just let folks go with. Will Emily Blue still be teaching 12th grade Spanish? Yes, she will. I won't say more. I've noticed if I add details, sometimes it seems like I didn't answer the question too, though. Yes, Emily Blue still teaching 12th year Spanish, I believe.
Yes.
Sí. My Spanish is functional, but I need to practice more. Necesito practicar. I see a couple folks in the chat have some lively questions. Is Sam still head of school? Henrik, I'm glad you asked. Yes, I am. And I said in the lower adolescent meeting, someone actually said, who is the new head of school? And I thought it was nice that they thought I would just be here, even if I wasn't. So I do plan to not be head of school forever. However, in April of this year, the school board paused the search process. The search committee suspended their process and passed it back to the school board. And so what I do know is this, we I'm counting, frankly, a year in which my 13 years at Great River School is helping me inform how we make good decisions for the school. And secondly, the kinds of decisions that we have to make would be, they're overwhelming for me. So I think they'd be unprecedentedly overwhelming for someone who doesn't know the community. So as this pandemic either stabilizes in how we operate the school or recedes and allows us to gather in person and interview people in person, I do believe the school board will set out a timeline sometime in the next 60 days about how that search process can and will happen, and then what my timeline is in terms of involvement with the school. So I'm still a human being filling a role as head of school, and then there will be a new head of school, but that timeline is not set yet, and so it will be by the school board. A couple other quick ones, a link to the presentation so you can watch and listen to all of the wonderful explanations Melanie gave, and then some more information about Zoom. But the University of Minnesota does use Zoom as its primary online meeting platform, and there is a way to use it safely. And then because it's so accessible, there are ways that if we don't use it correctly, can become insecure or let other people in that we don't want. So we've learned a lot about that, and so I'm confident that we can do that better now than we did right away in the spring. And then why are so many things changing that students are already used to, like manage back to Schoology and the schedule and what classes teachers are teaching? Thank you for asking. I really appreciate this question. And specifically, what I appreciate about it is the heartbreak that is in this question. I agree, so many things changing is not a great recipe for keeping things stable. And we came to terms last spring and this summer with, frankly, there are so many things that have changed out of our control that in order to meet what we think are our best practices, we couldn't keep all the same stuff. So for instance, you finding your assignment in one place, seeing it graded in another place, and then using email to tell your teacher about it and wait for them to respond somewhere was not a great solution to getting good feedback about your work, especially for 10th, 11th, and 12th year students. So Schoology does become one place where you can get your assignment, see the materials, hand in your assignment, talk to your teacher about it, and have a chat or a discussion back and forth about a topic with your classmates or about your assignment and feedback all in one place. It also then allows teachers really easily, without many different platforms, to record a video explanation of the assignment. And then it is going to be a learning curve for some folks. Many school districts use Schoology because it is so direct, but it's not going to be simple. And one of the reasons Manage Back was replaced by Schoology is because we believe it's a better solution for all the students, but that might not be you individually. And so if that's true, I'm sorry. Because hardship is not the goal in changing that up. I'm gonna sneeze. Whew, I tried to pause. I hope you didn't have to hear me sneeze. But then secondly, I'll say changing, say, science courses was a track that we were on to do to address some longstanding issues and problems with science accessibility and paths through the IB program. So we did decide last spring to continue that. And frankly, a lot of folks last March and April had planned and hoped and thought that the pandemic operation would probably be over by this fall. Now that clearly became, the reality of that clearly became false, as early as June, I believe. And really earlier we could have predicted it as a society. However, new science teachers, I believe, are going to carry out good curriculum. And the reason that we're doing 3 classes at a time is because we really listened to the feedback last year. And one of the reasons we're motivated to switch to Schoology is the feedback from the overwhelming number of students and families last year that said, make it more direct and simpler, less things at a time. And so that idea of less is more is that by doing 3 courses at a time for 20 days in a row, you're actually engaging in more instructional time with your courses and can complete things with more focus than when we did 6 courses at a time. So I agree, though, it's all very overwhelming. And so if we can take a deep breath, remember that when we're coming to school, we're doing challenging things. And frankly, that we can do hard things. We can do hard things. It can happen. So any more questions? Let's see.
Are we leaving Google Classroom?
Are we leaving? Were we ever really with Google Classroom? So Susan Hang, are we leaving Google Classroom? The short answer is yes. Not every teacher in the upper adolescent was using a Google Classroom. In fact, not many last year. And the longer answer is that as we looked at both security, privacy, accessibility, and then the ways that Google Classroom didn't integrate with the ways we have to report, say, assessment and grading and things like that. We are leaving Google Classroom, and so we're using Schoology. And again, I think that's a place in which we did make some hard decisions this summer, and we had to make them, frankly, in a very short time span to provide what we think will be the more stable, more engaging learning environment this year. So 3 classes at a time for 20 instructional days as you look at the calendar. And this Friday, we'll again put out either reminders of that information or clarifications of new information. And I think I'll be re-explaining in about a 2-minute video what we're doing this fall, why we're doing distance learning, how the school is a resource center to come to, and then these decisions about Schoology or about the class schedule are really all based in what we see aligns with what we know works at school about Montessori education, about coming together, about talking with each other and having meaningful interactions. And then having less things at a time means that we can do more with them. And so it's going to require your participation. And so if the changes are hard, I agree, and help us all work together.
Sam, I would also add that if you are a parent of students across multiple levels, we will be using Schoology, the same platform across from 1st grade to 12th grade. And so if you're a parent trying to support students at different levels, it will be so much easier for you.
Yep, yep. And the ability of all ages to engage in the same common platform that both served, say, 6 to 9-year-olds and also 15 to 18-year-olds was really an unquestioned, like unparalleled. Schoology presents an interactive platform that all the ages can interact with. So, but again, I didn't get into education to find the best learning management system on a screen. And so I agree, it's going to be some adjustment time for us. Okay, one more question popped up. Which platforms are IBDP students using? So IBDP students are also using Schoology for all of their classes and coursework. And then in particular, just for submissions to the diploma program, manage back files from last year stay accessible, and they still use that for submitting those files. But Schoology also will allow students and teachers to share across classrooms and disciplines some of their work. And then, so for non-IBDP students, the only thing you use is Schoology. And then for diploma program students, you get to use Manage Back like you did last year. Okay, well.
There's another question, Sam. It's an important one. Can you start using the Resource Center and then stop, or vice versa?
Oh, yes, absolutely you can. And this is something that I'm saying specifically to the whole school. As a general rule, is we want to know 2 weeks ahead of time if you're not using it before you expect to use it. We want 2 weeks notice. For adolescent students, I'll say it's more likely we can make an exception. If you know you got to start coming in, let us know, and then we will work with you to make a good plan. The folks who are on site are prepared to be physically distanced, use all the mitigating strategies, have masks on, have things secure, and really be as safe and healthy as possible. And be ready to help you, do work. So we've got materials there, you've got the spaces for learning. And so if you want to come in, let us know you want to come in, and we can probably accommodate you sooner than later if you're an adolescent student. But we do officially say, be prepared for 2 weeks notice before you're coming in. If you do come in and you decide you need to stop, then you could just stay at home. So distance learning is the educational model. And if you come into school, it's a place to do your distance learning with some support from Great River adults. You're welcome. Okay. Well, folks, so I just want to remind those of you who are still with us, I hope you've had popcorn, maybe a beverage, maybe you've gotten up and walked around during this last hour and 15 minutes, but also specifically, the family forums that happen at 6 p.m. every Tuesday will continue with me through the fall. And then in addition, there are some things that haven't been asked tonight I just want to speak to real quick. Key experiences. The first 9 days of the school are really designed to bring us together socially and emotionally and in values. But likely it's going to be weeks 3 through 7 that we possibly start doing invitations for physically distant social gatherings outdoors. Then secondly, the way that this year is going is really going to ask a lot of students and families. And it's also asking a lot of us at school. So if you see a way we can do something better, please offer that as a solution. If something's not going well for you, please come to us so we can all work together to help make that better. And then I see another question has popped up. Oh, good, here we go. And so I also just want to say that in my years at Great River School, one of the things that I think we have a strength at is taking an unexpected situation and turning it into an opportunity for learning, an opportunity for engagement. One of my great role models in life has said, always learning is expensive. It's an expensive proposition because often to learn, you have to let go of some things you thought you knew. And so the more you learn, it tends to be the case, the less you actually know. And so I believe we're living through one of those situations now that school, in fact, is not a place to be accumulating facts, but is indeed a place to be practicing common ownership of what we're doing, both young people to each other and those of us who care for young people with each other in support of those young people. So as we enter this year and we enter a time of such really unpredictable times, I think we'll have to be required to be open-minded and growth mindset about how things work. Whether it's Stacy and I trying to get a Zoom call to work that's worked all summer and falls apart, or whether, you know, it's Schoology. Like, I hear you, folks. I hear you. It's not going to be wonderful, but some things of wonder may come of it. So here we go. All right. I'm going to say goodbye to folks. I believe all the questions are answered. And if you're still with us, bless you. And get some good rest, and look for both the communication on Friday, your schedule coming over the weekend, and then when you are here on Tuesday with us, just being ready for a slow start to the year that's tempered. Okay. Thanks all.
See y'all soon.